looking at materials and rendering in your Revit model. One of the first things I want to do is come down here and change my visual style to realistic. This will allow me to see the materials that are applied in my model. There are two ways to change the materials on some of these components. For this site, for example, when you select the site in your properties dialog over here, it allows you to change the material. So grass was not offered initially in Revit. I had to create this material. So I'll come down here, create a new material. I'm going to rename this simply lawn. So there's nothing, this is very generic or standard. So what I want to do now is replace those assets with a grass texture. So clicking this button brings us here. I will go to site work, and there should be some grass in here. Let's try and just search grass, see what comes up. So we have two types here. Let's go with the dark rye. So I'll click on the material, and then this button here replaces the current asset. So what's happening is my material lawn has inherited the material attributes for this kind of grass. So now I'll click OK, and there it is. So moving on, let's go to modify. This is how we'll start to paint or apply materials to some of these faces. Here's the paint and unpaint tool. There's paint and remove paint. I believe trim, the material trim, comes with the initially when you open your Revit model. So I'm going to click on trim and go around and paint all of the trim boards, fascia, this kind of thing. So any kind of trim or fascia, we're going to paint it white. Sides of the porch floors, that kind of thing. Okay, and we'll click done. Now for the siding, this also may be a stock texture in Revit, and it is. Mine is anyway. So I'll click on the white siding. We'll just paint. We're just left clicking, painting the faces. Okay. Now when it comes to the columns, the beam, and some other things, you can't really paint these, or the best way to apply a material here, or an easy way to do this, is we'll select it, go to edit type, and simply enter the material you want it to be here. We'll click OK. So this will be the appearance material. Now for the roof. For the roof we want a custom, let's make a custom texture or custom material. We'll go to Manage, Materials, and just like how we did the lawn or the grass, we'll create a new material. Let's call this one Wood Shakes, and then we'll go to find that texture. So this one is going to be in the appearance library. Let's try roofing first, and here it is. So again, with designing your building, I'm open to the idea of you designing the textures and the finishing and the cladding as long as it's appropriate. Don't put Spanish tile inside on the walls or carpet on the roof. If it's appropriate, that's fine. So I'm going to click on Shake Hand Split, and we will replace those assets. I'll check this out of here. So here's Wood Shakes, the material we just created. It's taken on all the attributes of the texture we want. I'm going to hit OK. And then we'll go to Modify, Paint. Let's see. Here's our material we just made. We can search it up here. Click on that and simply just paint whatever faces we want. Okay. Now we'd like to render this thing. So we'll take a picture of it. Essentially what we're doing is rendering pictures that we take of the model. So I'm on my first floor because that's where I'm going to stand. That's the level I'm going to stand at to take the photograph of this model. Up here next to the 3D view, there's a pull-down menu. Second item down here is camera. So I'll click on camera. Then I'm going to click my point of view, where I'm standing to take this picture. So I'm going to click one point in space over here. I'm at about a 45-degree angle off of this corner, roughly 60 feet away. So left click, and as I bring my mouse, left click here. As I bring my mouse toward the building, you'll see where the camera is aimed. Also, you'll see that I just turned off my cropping region so I can see what's happening with my camera. So left click and the second left click right here, that will bring us to our 3D image. You may adjust this window, crop some of the dead space out of here. We don't want to see a huge sea of grass or a huge sea of sky. We like this to fill up basically the image. So there's eye elevation and target elevation. This looks about right, although our point of view maybe looks a little high because we're standing, the first floor is way up here actually, the ground is 2 feet down, but this is okay. Now let's see, we'll go to realistic view and see what this looks like, just to make sure we painted everything and it looks okay. So from here there are two ways to render this. In your computer locally, or you could send it to the Autodesk cloud. They'll render it for you in less time. You'll get a better rendering, and you can download it from the cloud anytime. Let's do this in-house first. I'm going to click this icon down here, Show Rendering Dialog. So I'm going to start with just a draft, or different settings, rendering. This may take a moment. That's why I start with draft. As you get up in quality, it takes much longer. And this also freezes up your workstation. So while I'm waiting for this thing, I'm not able to work on Revit. So that took a certain, maybe 30 seconds or a minute. So when we go to, and this is the desired result. This looks okay for starters. Say if we go to high, for example, this workstation would now be locked up for, it could be up to 20 minutes. So you could smartly, if you're still, maybe this is one of the last things you do, or you could run two computers. Or additionally, because we do want some nice renderings. When you render this for your final project, let's put it on high and see how that comes out. So from here, let's save to project. We'll save this rendering to the project. Call it rendering 1. And this will appear. This will appear in your project browser. Open renderings, look at rendering 1, and there it is. So when we're ready to put this on our cover sheet, we'll go just like any other view. We'll drag rendering 1 onto this sheet, place it down. Okay? So here's the option to, this is the recommended option on how to render this. should go to Autodesk. Or student community. So Autodesk student community. And sign up for an account. You'll get a free account here for students, which will allow you all the Autodesk software for free. Alright, and with this account, once you have your student account, you'll go here and find your way through. There's a link on the Vanco Hall if you're looking for this. So once you have a student account, you can then render these images in the cloud. And additionally, if you want to do any interactive work, interactive panoramas, you will need to, or it's better to do it in the cloud. So go to View, Render in Cloud. So Render in Cloud, I'm already signed in, but it may ask you to sign in. So I'm going to switch this to JPEG, and we'll leave this at standard for now. Standard or final are the two quality options. So I'm going to click Render. It's telling me it's going to take about 10 minutes. So we click Render. I'm going to say Continue in Background. This is the big benefits of this. Autodesk will render this for me, and I can continue to work on my model. So I'm not being locked up. You'll see this window, View Rendering Progress. Yes, we want to do that. Or we can pull this menu down if we miss that bubble and check our rendering progress. So this is bringing you to your Autodesk account or the cloud. And then here it is, Revit, Final, it's rendering. It'll even let us know when it's done. So when it's done, you could simply, over here, download that image. Save it to your computer. So let's do a test run of that. Here's one I did yesterday. And you can click on this image. If you're happy with it, we will download image, save as, put this right on my desktop and call it test 1. So you'll need to know where you put this. Of course, you'll need to go get it. So how do we get that onto a sheet? Let's see. We'll go to our rendering sheet in Revit. And it's pretty simple. It's just a drag and drop. Let's get to my desktop here. Okay, here's my image on my desktop. Simply going to drag this onto my Revit sheet. Drop it down. While it's selected, these blue dots come up. So you can use those to scale this. However, compose your sheet. Okay. Alright, so there's the basics for materials and rendering for Revit.